Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Ultimate Comics Podcast. My name is Nabeel Gaber, and I am one of your hosts.
And I am Josh Kang, the other host.
And this is the podcast where we talk about Ultimate Marvel, an imprint of Marvel Comics that began in the year 2000. It an attempt to modernize and update Marvel and its characters for the 21st century. Josh and I, every episode, have been reading a handful of issues, going chronologically through the original Ultimate Universe, and talking about what we think, what we like, what we don't, what works, what maybe hasn't aged so well now that it's been at least 20 years since a lot of these comics came out, and how these comics have influenced Marvel in other media as well.
And I think these issues have been like a direct reflection of that because this arc came out around the same time Spider-Man 2 came out.
That is right. This week we're covering Ultimate Spider-Man 54 through 59, an arc just called Hollywood. And this is a very fun meta narrative about, in this story, Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, Avi Arad developing a Spider-Man movie in universe, in the Ultimate Universe. And this story coincided with the release of Spider-Man 2. So it's very fun. Josh, what do you think of these issues?
I thought they were all right. Like many Spider-Man things, I feel one of the more interesting stuff is the backstory that's going
Mm-hmm.
on around his personal life. This was a very okay comic. Nothing super special happens in it. I still really liked it though. So
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it's Ultimate Spider-Man. I feel like you really can't go wrong there. Even the arcs that I'm not feeling so much are still pretty good,
yeah,
honestly. I think this one is a lot of fun. I mean, we were just talking about this right before we recorded, and I will say, yeah, this does coast a lot on the novelty of having big names like Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire in universe in this comic, and it's
yeah.
very fun to see.
Like if this was made now, there'll be a Zendaya, there'll be Tom Holland.
Hmm. Yeah, there'd be what, Benedict Cumberbatch. There'd be there was the guy's name who plays Ned. Can't even remember.
I mean, I don't think it's a big name though, other than Spider-Man, as opposed to
Right.
Sam
No,
Raimi
fair
or
enough.
yeah, as opposed to Sam
You'd have
Raimi.
Kevin Feige in there.
Yeah, Kevin Feige. I mean, Kevin Feige already is in the Marvel comics, so why not?
Yeah, why not? He did
Yeah.
appear in X-Men a few years back, yeah.
Oh yeah, he did.
During the Hellfire Gala, yeah.
Yeah, I do like how this is not a big spoiler. I mean, we're gonna go over it anyway. But Sam Raimi, there's a scene where Sam Raimi, like well-known cult and like horror movie director, and they list his actual filmography in the comic, which I liked.
Yeah, they mentioned how he directed Evil Dead and everything.
Yeah, that was a great movie. I forget who I saw it with. Was it with you?
No, not with me.
Oh,
But I've seen the Evil Dead movies as well, and I think they're really fun. I really enjoy them.
I saw the first Evil Dead. It was fun.
You got to see the third one, Army of Darkness, might be my favorite. Because
Yeah,
at that point, it's really just a fun action comedy.
yeah.
But anyway, why don't we just jump right into these issues? It's pretty fun. We begin with Aunt May leaving for the week to go see her mother in Florida.
Which is very much a trope of New Yorkers is that they have a older relative in Florida.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I feel
Yeah,
like in general, so many people go to Florida when they retire that a lot of people would probably see, oh, yeah, I have my mother in Florida or my grandmother in Florida or someone.
that was not a thing growing up where I am. Just saying.
Oh, well, I mean, different strokes.
Yeah, it's like why would you retire to Florida if you live in California?
That's fair enough. I mean,
Yeah,
my mom has talked a lot about how she wants to retire in San Diego. So,
I mean, yeah. I don't know. I meet a lot of New Yorkers who have weird ties to Florida. But maybe
mhm.
that's just because New Yorkers have a big opinion of themselves. I think the whole country revolves around them.
Well, it's also probably easier for New Yorkers to retire in Florida because it's like the same coast. So,
Yeah. I also find it interesting that like Aunt May's mother's alive because we got a younger Aunt May. I think it's the first time in Marvel we do have a young-ish Aunt May.
yeah,
Yeah.
because Aunt May in 616 in the main universe is grandmother age. That's how
Yeah.
old she is. She is very old. She is deathly ill in so many of the early comics. That's how old she is. But yeah, it is interesting that she does mention having a mother who is alive and lives in
Yeah.
Florida here.
And this also means she's not the biological aunt of Peter Parker, because then we get more references to Peter's grandma still being alive.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
We would.
yeah. Grandma Parker. I mean,
That would be a lot of fun. But that's basically Aunt May.
yeah. Aunt May says she loves Gwen, and then she goes like, "No hanky panky, you two."
It's really funny. It's a fun running gag that she keeps using this ridiculous phrase, hanky panky, this
I've heard it
anachronistic
before.
old
It's
timey.
not anachronistic. I've heard it growing up.
I did not hear this growing up because my parents did probably never heard of it before. Or if they did, they're like, this is so old timey and absurd.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a really nice moment too where she says goodbye and she says she loves Peter, of course. And then she says, Gwen, I'm so glad you come to live with us and I love you too. And it's a really sweet moment. And there's a panel that just shows Gwen's face and she's brimming with just such joy. And it's really nice to see Gwen being taken in this familial relationship she's developed with Peter and Aunt May.
yeah.
But then Aunt May gives them $300 for the week. And then the two of them split the money 50-50 and are like, all right, I'll see you in a week, basically, is what
It's
Peter and Gwen say to each other.
like a very brother sister thing, but also it's interesting because she goes, "I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing with my money. I'm not going to tell you, and you don't have to tell me." And also, there's a scene where like Aunt May goes, "It's only for emergencies, but I don't expect it to see it back when I come back."
Yeah, she's like, you have your own money too. There's plenty of food and everything, but hey, if you guys need it, here's $300 that I will probably never see again.
$300 is a lot now. Like if like that's like a week's worth of food, in my opinion. But
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a lot to give to two teenagers. They
especially back
would not
then,
need it. Yeah,
2000, like
yeah,
my parents have left me alone for a week before. Like I survived off of anything from like 25 to 100 before. Like
yeah, you're a scrapper.
I mean, I don't think it was even hard like in 2014 to do that. I feel now you like $20 is a meal, but back like even can you imagine us saying now that like back then is when we were kids?
Yeah, I mean, it gets me all the time
Yeah,
how
okay.
old we're becoming.
Yeah, I mean we're not old. We're leaving young.
We're
But
not children anymore. Yeah.
yeah, but when I was young, $20 could be if you're a kid. Oh, I feel like half a week's worth of food. I think now it's 2 days maximum, and not even that. $20.
Yeah, $20 is going to cover like eating out once,
Yeah,
really.
yeah. No, $20 is McDonald's now.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Then Aunt May goes and leaves, and Gwen goes to do her thing. So Peter's sitting down, and there's this whole fun thing where he's got his classic internal monologue going that's very stream of consciousness. There's a whole section of the page that is just purely text next to the image of Peter sitting down having cereal, and he's thinking about a bunch of stuff like, oh, things are going well for me as Spider-Man. Oh, Jonah Jameson is actually being better now, and oh, I gotta work at the Bugle. I need to make more money, and oh man, I gotta take MJ on a proper date, and oh, when was the last time I saw a movie? Which is very funny because that leads to the big catalyst for this story, which is really a report on the news that's playing about how Sam Raimi, the director, and producer Avi Arad are producing a Spider-Man movie, which obviously did happen in real life, a whole trilogy, some would say.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because Peter is furious about this. He's like, what? And he's holding onto the door and he like rips it off his hinges.
Gwen notices.
Yeah. Gwen's like, that's coming out of your half. Like,
Maybe like the $300 just because Aunt May knows these teenagers are probably going to destroy the house. This is insurance.
yeah, I mean, kiss that $300 goodbye. That's at least $300 to repair that door.
No, unless you do it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, Peter might have the skill. Who knows? He does a lot, you know.
I feel Gwen has the skills.
Maybe she could have some hidden talents for woodwork and
I feel like Gwen is like, I don't know. I feel like she's the kind of girl that like could be a mechanic one day. I don't know. I get that vibe
yeah.
from her.
No, I see this version of Gwen
Yeah.
ending up as yeah, definitely. I could see her doing that.
Like the English major becomes a mechanic, so when you get your car fixed, she quotes poetry at you, and you go like, "What?"
Yeah. You're like, huh.
Huh.
You were an English major, huh? I
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah, well, mechanics make more money as than English majors, especially if
Yeah,
they have
so
a English degree.
yeah, you can't do much with a BA in English, as they say in Avenue Q.
Yeah, I don't know what Avenue Q is.
Oh, it's a musical.
Yeah,
Anyways, Gwen sees the report about the movie, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I wonder if they're going to include anything about Spider-Man killing my dad," which is like a ooh,
yeah,
like of course that's still going to be there, and that still creates tension between Peter and Gwen because she doesn't know he's Spider-Man, and she doesn't know that he didn't kill her father.
I think it's really their only source of tension. They already have like a very organic relationship, the two of them.
Yeah, they have a good relationship, but this is a big thing that has driven a wedge between them in that way.
Yeah, we're in prison now. Otto Octavius is getting mocked by the guards for being a cop killer,
Hmm.
and as he finds out, oh, the movie is able to tell your story because your ex-wife sold the rights.
Yeah. She optioned off the rights for his story, and the guard is mocking him because he's a cop killer is what the guard is saying, and
Yeah,
he's like, "Yeah, you must feel pretty bad about this right now." And so obviously here's another clear catalyst for the story is Doc Ock just boiling with rage about his ex-wife selling the rights to his story for this movie.
so two things. Why isn't he in the supervillain prison, guarded by the Ultimates and Shield? He's just in a regular prison.
I think it's because they separated from him from his arms, so they think, oh, he's far enough away from his arms, and also without them, he's not much of a threat. But that's where they're wrong.
Uh, it's just crazy because like they kind of know better. The other thing is that he's kind of going crazy. Like Doctor Octopus, you and I were talking about this. Doesn't do anything like super villainy. I mean, like yeah, he does like a bad thing, but like he's not like out to destroy the world or anything in this arc. He's just kind of doing. He's just kind of like an unstable guy who has way too much power in this arc.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
he's just a guy who's pissed off that his ex-wife is making money off of him and he's being ridiculed and mocked in the press and being misrepresented, and he is kind of unstable because of course, as we'll see throughout this arc, he has a very unhealthy attachment to these metallic arms
yeah,
that he wears that are sentient, I'm pretty sure,
yeah. I think they are.
because he talks to them. At least he talks to them. I don't know if they're talking back. Maybe in his
Or
head
maybe
they
he is
are.
just crazy. He could just be mentally unwell.
Yeah, he's probably just unstable.
Yeah.
But
Back in school, Kong goes, "Yeah, they're making the movie, and it's gonna be an extra, and no one believes it." And for some reason, Flash goes like, "Yeah, not my thing."
yeah, which is crazy. I don't know. Maybe it's more the 616 main universe Flash is a huge Spider-Man fan. So I'm like, you're telling me Flash Thompson would not want in on the Spider-Man movie?
Which is weird, because Ultimate Flash is also very flashy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought Ultimate Flash was also at least a decent like Spider-Man fan. Maybe Kong kind of takes his place in that way, but I refuse to believe Flash would not be interested in having a an extra role in this movie.
Yeah,
But that might just be me.
yeah. Meanwhile, Otto commands his arms from that shield facility to escape, and then help him escape.
Yeah, because those arms were not far enough away from him.
But I also think it's not wrong what he said in the earlier comic where he goes, "I think I already had possibly even latent powers that gives me a psychic connection to the arms."
Yeah.
Because he starts like they start morphing according to his desires too. Like they turn into clubs, they get all liquidy.
Yeah, that's true. I think there is something about his connection to the arms, and I think the more he uses them, the more he bonds with them. It becomes this symbiotic relationship, really, between the two of them.
It's also kind of the lamest power because well, the arms are gone. You're gone. You're tied to the arms because there's an X-Men character named El Guapo who has a psychic connection to a skateboard.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah,
As hard as that might be for people to believe.
yeah. What if you didn't get like a psychic connection to the arms? What if you got a psychic connection to like a car? Actually, that's not that bad actually, but
Yeah. I think
it's not.
that's like Herbie fully loaded.
Oh my gosh, that is Herbie Foley. I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it is
but
crazy, yeah.
yeah, it also means like Shields was kind of dumb that like you
Yeah.
guys knew he was gonna do. He told you he was gonna do this.
But they wanted to study the arms is the
Yeah,
thing. And once again, it's Shield flying too close to the sun and messing with things they don't understand because they should have just destroyed these arms instead of poking the bear once again and being like, "Oh, let's see what we can do with these arms." I'm like, "Well, you misjudged how close they were to
uh,
Otto and now he's used them so he can escape from prison. So, way
yeah.
to go, Shield. Fine work as usual."
They're like, "Oh, there's no way he could do this. It's 20 miles away." And he goes, "I can still feel them." They go, "Oh, we should move them again." And it kind of reminds me that in like the 50s, the U.S. government made a new nuke just to see what it'll do, and it turned out it had a blast radius of 7,000 miles.
Damn.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of like I was like, "There's no way a government will be that dumb," and I'm like, we did just blow up a nuke that had a 7,000 mile blast radius, and we didn't know about that. We just wanted to see what it would do. So I don't know, maybe a government can do that.
Yeah, I mean, the government has been historically pretty dumb, so
Yeah,
it's fair.
yeah. Hey, I used to work for the government.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to brush past that. Anyways, Spider-Man then arrives on the set since the movie is filming in New York, and he confronts in this comic a very famous page from this series that has been posted everywhere where he confronts Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi, and Avi Arad, all real people.
Yeah.
But he confronts them all and he's like, "You suck, you suck, and you suck." And he says to Sam Raimi, he's like, "Evil Dead was great, but like, you suck."
Oh, that is
Uh,
such. I feel that's such a. Like, did Sam Raimi write this, or like you gotta have a scene where he says "Evil Dead's awesome"? By the way,
I'm sure Bendis just loved Evil Dead.
I mean it's a good movie. Let's be fair.
Yeah, but it's really fun. You get to see Tobey Maguire's suit. It's the same one from the Sam Raimi movies because he's got those more diamond shaped lenses on the Spider-Man mask.
It's also very uncomfortable. Like they paused filming just so they could fix Toby's costume,
Yeah, because he can't breathe in this mask. Yeah.
which was a problem he actually had. He actually had to like force himself to wear the suit to get acclimated to it, which is insane.
Yeah, no, definitely. Sam Raimi and Avi Arad, they're like, well, you're public domain, so we're allowed to do this. They
Yeah,
also got the rights for Otto's story from his ex-wife, and they got the rights for Norman Osborn's story from his half-sister, Cher Osborn,
Osborn.
which even throws Spider-Man back. He's like, Cher Osborn? What are you saying? Like, I've never heard this name before either, and I'm like,
What's the
okay,
name
that's cool,
of
I guess.
Ozzy Osbourne's wife?
Yeah, honestly.
Honestly, that explains a lot. Ozzy Osbourne is a demon guy who eats bats. Norman Osborn,
Yeah.
when he's on drugs, turns into a giant green demon that shoots
I can see
fireballs.
Ozzy Osbourne taking the Goblin Serum. Yeah, I can see it
He's
happening.
probably gonna do it live.
Yeah, in
Maybe it's
front
not.
of an audience. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe not the best thing in the world, but I bet it's gonna be like, oh, rock, like this. That'll be a great concert.
yeah. No, that would be very exciting. But then Sam Raimi and Avi Arad, they want to consult with Spider-Man about Norman Osborn. And he's like, "Hey, wait a minute, are you going to pay me?" And they're like, "Well, you got to take off your mask and tell us who you are," which obviously he can't do, which is the age-old problem with Spider-Man that dates back all the way to Amazing Spider-Man #1,
Yeah,
which was he tries to cash his check as Spider-Man, and they're like, "Do you have photo ID or a social security card or anything?" And he's like, "No." And then he's like, "Well, we can't cash this check for you because it's under Spider-Man. It's
I
not
don't,
your real name."
I don't get this. They're like, they can't just pay in cash.
Yeah, apparently not. I don't know
Yeah,
what the deal is. They don't work that way. Also, what's really scummy too is that then the whole time they've been filming while Spider-Man's like ranting against them and they're like, "We just saved money on CGI just by filming you," which is just like, "Damn, that's so rude."
they also ask him really weird questions. I thought about Osborn. They're like, what was his motivation? And I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
it's like I would not ask this guy this. Not because it's
Yeah.
a bad question, just because it's just the wrong guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, he did know some stuff about his but he's not going to share it with them.
Yeah, Otto's arms, they're like liquidy now, and they're like morphing and changing, like I said earlier, and they break him out of prison after Spider-Man leaves, and Sam Raimi and Avi are just a high five him. So it's like, yeah, we just saved a
Yeah.
couple $1,000.
Yeah, literally. But yeah, the issue ends with Otto breaking out of prison because
Yeah.
Shield. Made a really boneheaded move.
Yeah. Like, I'll be perfectly fair. If I was S.H.I.E.L.D., I would have kept the arms.
Of course you would have. I'm
Because
sure
it's,
you would have loved poking and prodding those things.
hell yeah, you know what you could do with those arms?
What could you do?
I don't know, like, but it'll be awesome. You could put them on another dude, see what happens.
You don't want to be the guinea pig. You just want to make someone else the guinea pig and put the
Like,
arms on him.
well, maybe they could have, like, a surgical quality to them, we could use them in surgery, we could use them in mobility or
I don't know.
construction.
Maybe just start from scratch and make new ones. I don't know.
Or maybe we could create our own like Black Ops Avengers team and like get a Doctor Octopus character there.
Again with the Black Ops.
Yeah, every superhero team needs like a dark Black Ops mission,
This is at
Suicide
least the
Squad.
third time you brought this up on
Yes,
this
it's
show.
a good idea. It's a great idea.
All right. Well, moving on. I agree with you, but we have other stuff to talk about. In the next issue, Otto arrives at this house and the guy answers the door who lives there and he talks to him and he's like, "Yeah, I did like put down a mortgage on a house just like this one." And the guy's like, "Okay, do I know you?" And he's like, "Nah, you don't know me." But it's a pretty ominous way to like end the page too, is that we don't have an explicit idea of what happens, but we're pretty sure Octavius just straight up murders this guy and takes his house.
Yeah, and Nick Fury does say like, "You kill a ton of people, man."
Yeah, so it's a really fun, creepy, serial killer-y type scene where he just walks up to this stranger's home and tells him this stuff, and then it ends on a zoom out of the house, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's
apparently, I
pretty.
could tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like his arms have detached and are just sneaking into the back of the house now.
Yeah, at this point, I think so.
Yeah. I always find it funny that like the thing with Otto is like he's just a regular old, slightly overweight dude. He's not really impressive physically, but the arms just making him like kind of
Yeah,
hard to beat.
the arms and his intelligence both make him a huge threat, but
Yeah,
it's what he does with the arms and their absolute strength and I think mobility too that make him a huge threat.
he kind of reminds me of like I never watched Death Note, but from what I know, it's like there's a regular dude just killing people with a notebook. It kind of reminds me of that, where like he's not impressive really, but like there's just some demonic figure just following in the ultimate just following around doing his evil bidding.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's fair.
yeah.
I didn't think of that comparison before, but
It's
yeah,
a bad comparison because I never watched it. In hindsight, I shouldn't have made it.
I'd
But
recommend.
yeah. Oh, you watched it?
Yeah, it's like one season, so pretty
Oh, really?
easy
I
to
didn't
get
know
through.
that.
Yeah.
Also, they do change his look in this one. He has the 616 face, but he has the movie version's costume. I want
Yeah,
to
we'll
point
get
out.
into that, but yeah, since this is right before Spider-Man 2, which features Doc Ock as the main villain, they give him the look that Doc Ock has in Spider-Man 2, which is the long brown trench coat and everything. And
The red dot on his chest connecting the
yeah,
arms. I think the arms now have like the red spinning things, the red like lights attached to them too.
yeah, yeah. So they're very much trying to make him Alfred Molina in this,
Uh,
which is fun. It really gives you an idea of like when this was made.
One thing I never liked about the 616 is when they make a movie character nowadays, they try to match it to the MCU, the look.
Yeah,
They don't do that here. They just change his costume. They don't change his actual physical appearance, which I appreciate.
that's true. And it's really just for this arc too, which I can appreciate because this arc was around the time of Spider-Man 2 and it
Yeah,
seems like it's mainly there to promote the movie through this fun meta narrative.
yeah.
But anyways, then we get to the auditions for the extra part. We see a bunch of people repeating the same line of "Look up in the sky." And Kong says the line and he gets the role. So he's really excited. He's talking to everyone at school about it. He's like, "Oh man, I'm going to get paid for this. The money's going to go on my college fund." And everyone's like, "That's such a lame line. You got to change it." He's like, "Nah, I can't change it."
Yeah.
And then Gwen is not having any of this because she's overhearing them all talk about him being so excited to be in a Spider-Man movie. And she's like, "Is there a part in the movie where Spider-Man
When it
kills
kills
my
my
dad?"
dad.
Yeah. I'm like, "Oh, okay." So
I mean,
she's furious, of
I don't
course.
blame her because, like, as far as she knows, he did kill her dad. Not saying she's
Yeah.
right, but yeah.
No, it's understandable for sure where she's coming from.
Yeah.
It, in her mind, that is what happened because she doesn't really know what happened other than that. But then Peter and MJ chase after Gwen and try to talk to her. and she has a total meltdown. She flips out and she's like, "This is all I think about." And now they're making a movie and glorifying this guy, and this guy murdered my dad. And Peter is trying to defend Spider-Man because he's like, "Well, we don't really know that." And she's like, "Why do you even care? Why are you defending him?" And she runs off, and Peter is definitely doing the Peter Parker thing where he feels guilt over something that isn't even really his fault, because
Yeah,
MJ's like, "This isn't your fault, Peter." And he's like, "I still feel really bad about that."
yeah. The next page is Otto Octavius. He's talking to himself. He's calling himself "we." He's talking to his
Yeah.
arms. He's also wearing a bathrobe. It's like the weirdest thing. Like,
Well, there's a whole page where it's this 8 panel grid of Otto just sitting there talking to someone, and we can't really tell who it is. I mean, if you have a good feeling that he's talking to himself slash the arms, and the
yeah,
next page it does zoom out and reveal he's just sitting there talking to these metallic arms about his plans,
yeah.
talking about how, "Oh, we'll kill Parker, but it's not time yet. They have his house surrounded now, and we have to go after my ex-wife, and we have to go after this film set and everything." And
He lost it,
yeah, he's totally gone. He's unhinged. He's over the edge.
and
uh,
we know that because he's wearing a bathrobe
yeah.
with like the full hood on.
Well, you can be in a bathrobe for a lot of reasons. Like, hopefully it's because you're relaxed and just chilling out, but
Whoa!
I don't know, it could also be a sign that you've kind of lost it.
Only the worst people wear bathrobes.
Really, is that your
Yeah,
stance?
Donald Trump, Harvey Weinstein.
I mean, yeah, I that then you could just categorize any of the outfits that these guys have worn as only the worst people. Only the worst people have worn a suit.
That is true. All the
Well,
bad people in the
anyways,
world
I
have
agree
worn a
those are
suit.
horrible people, but
Uh,
I'm sure there are plenty of good people who have worn bathrobes in the past.
okay, yeah,
But
he calls himself "we," which I find interesting because that's is that a thing in six? I don't think it's a thing in 616 where he goes like, "We must
no.
kill." It's a very Venom thing. I feel.
Yeah, it does feel very much like Venom in that symbiotic relationship that he's
Yeah.
got, and the referrals in the plural of "we."
Mhm.
Like, we are a unit together. I think in 616 you do have kind of an element of his connection to the arms, but I don't think it's as intense
Yeah.
as this, really.
Yeah. Isn't there a 616 comic where it's revealed Doctor Octopus has been like brain dead for a bit and the arms are just doing his stuff?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that did happen one time.
But even then, it's more like the arms are doing in those situations where they're programmed to do. They just do it
Yeah,
exceedingly well. Like they have an like I'm not saying this is what it is, but like they have an AI that's like doing the things they would have done if he was around and fully conscious. In this
yeah,
case, they're weirder. Like they take on this serial killer quality, and he's talking to them.
hmm,
Yeah, he becomes like you said, he becomes like a unit, like a man
yeah,
of war. Yeah, where it's a
yeah. These
multiple
become like
organism.
sentient beings for all intents and purposes. But that is very much what it's like in Spider-Man 2, in that movie, where he does hear
Yeah,
the voices talking to him and he communicates with the arms.
yeah. Then he sees his wife on TV talking about how he's sad and pathetic. He loses it.
Yeah, that's right. His wife is like, yeah, he's a sad and tragic and pathetic figure. He like throws something at the TV, and
Yeah,
so he's determined to get even and get revenge.
yeah.
And then back at the house, Gwen is there and she sees a bunch of black vans parked outside, and it looks so suspicious, and she's like, "What is happening?" Because it's like shields staking out the house to protect Peter because they know Doc Ock's on the loose.
And they're disguised as linemen, gardeners, landscapers.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, way to look inconspicuous, guys. You're all in black vans, though.
And it's also funny because they're like doing jobs, but like they all have like the government agent look with the square face and black shades.
Yeah, I'm like, way to do your jobs really well, guys. Is this what SHIELD teaches at the academy? This is the stealth that they teach you?
Maybe when Nixon hired ex-CIA to break into Watergate, the cops found them and says like, "We found a bunch of burglars dressed in three-piece suits carrying rolls of $100 bills in their suitcases." So maybe,
Yeah. But then back on the film set, we get, I think this is our first actual look in Ultimate Marvel at Mysterio,
yeah,
because they have someone playing Mysterio in this movie. It's this big fun splash page of classic 616 Mysterio holding a woman on his arm and everything, and then they're like, "All right, cut," after Kong says his line. They're like, all right, they call the guy Bruce who plays Mysterio, and I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Bruce
Bruce
Campbell,
Campbell.
who, for those who don't know, I'm sure a lot of you listening do know that Bruce Campbell makes a cameo in every single one of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films because they're good friends. And what's really funny is there are rumors, and this, I'm not sure if this is 100% true, but for the fourth movie that Bruce Campbell was going to make a cameo as Mysterio. I think there were storyboards released of Spider-Man bringing Mysterio into police headquarters or something.
There's even art made of it.
Yeah, so if they did a fourth Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi, I think Bruce Campbell would have cameoed as Mysterio there. So this
Yeah.
is a very fun reference to that in the comic, at least a reference to Bruce Campbell making cameos in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies.
I also have no idea how they're going to introduce Ultimate Mysterio now that they just introduced a fictional Mysterio.
No, I'm excited to see. Yeah, I remember Ultimate Mysterio vaguely, but I'm interested to get a refresher on that.
I like his costume. So, but it's interesting because if there's Ultimate Mysterio and there's Bruce Campbell Mysterio, that means there's three Mysterios at one point in Ultimate Marvel.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because for those who don't know, 616 Mysterio will accidentally get trapped in the Ultimate Universe for a bit.
That's right. That's during Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, and then he sticks around for Ultimate Galactus.
Dang, really?
Yeah,
I
and
didn't
it's
know
funny
that.
because Ultimate Shield doesn't know what Galactus is, so they bring in regular Mysterio to just like, what's Galactus?
And
And yes,
Mysterio doesn't even he just has as much knowledge, I feel like, as any regular Marvel Universe citizen of 616 about what Galactus does.
he does, and that's the thing in the comic. He's like, I don't know, like he's a giant guy that showed up to eat the planet once, and
He eats planets. I don't know what to tell you, man.
this
I
is
can't
it.
explain the inner workings and machinations of Galactus.
It's like,
I'm not Reed Richards.
it's like I don't know, like if a giant, I don't know, like if an earthquake happens and you just get some random guy from LA, go, what's that? And go like, it's an earthquake. What's an earthquake? When the earth shakes, I don't know,
I'm
dude.
not a seismologist. Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
tell you.
it's just a natural phenomenon where I'm from.
Yeah,
You just
like I've experienced it before. The ground shakes. It's really scary. Anyways, then a producer comes up to Sam Raimi and Avi Arad and is like, "Oh, I've heard that Otto Octavius might be out of prison." And they're like, "What are you talking about, man? That's not in the news." And he's like, "Well, they're keeping it under wraps, but it's gonna be on the 6 o'clock news. Like he's out and he's
yeah.
probably coming after us."
It's like my friend works has like a secret, a super secret agent job.
That's right.
Yeah,
And this person is right because immediately Doc Ock arrives and starts attacking.
yeah.
And meanwhile, Spider Man has also just been watching this whole thing because he's just been perched on a ledge, just bitterly gazing at everyone while they do their thing.
And everyone's uncomfortable. They're like, "Oh, we can't talk shit about it because he might have spider hearing." Someone asks, "Like, is that a thing?" It's like, "I don't know. He might have it."
Yeah, like it's possible. It's like that one panel from Amazing Spider-Man Annual where J. Jonah Jameson tries to contact Spider-Man and he
Mm-hmm.
just starts talking to a random spider because he's like, well, Ant-Man talks to ants. Shouldn't Spider-Man communicate with spiders?
In my opinion, he should. Like every other animal themed character in Marvel talks to their animal. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, they did that a little bit in the J. Michael Straczynski, like the other storyline and everything. So,
They also do it in Doctor Strange, where Doctor Strange grants Peter's wish to talk to spiders.
oh, that's true. Yeah,
Oh
that's a really fun comic.
yeah, I liked it too.
Spider-Man's mad because he's like, damn, I have to defend these guys. And the
Yeah.
issue ends, with Otto confronting him and being like, Mr. Parker.
Parker.
Because he knows his secret identity.
Yeah.
And yeah, he is in that full brown trench coat and that full Alfred Molina Doc Ock look. So
Mhm.
it's very fun. It's a really good double page spread at the end of the issue by Mark Bagley. It's really well done.
Yeah.
In the next issue, it opens with once again Gwen just wondering why feds are staking out the house because she recognizes that these are at least federal agents because she's the daughter of a cop.
Yeah.
And
And,
then suddenly all the vans just start taking off. And she's like,
yeah.
what's going on? So then we cut to Spider-Man and Doc Ock fighting again on this film set.
Mm-hmm. Is a little upset he has to defend this movie he doesn't like. And I kind of said this earlier, but some of Dr. Octopus' arms, the claws are now like forming bumps on the arms that look like suction cups from tentacles, and they
Yeah.
just use them as like a bludgeoning tool. which is a very interesting take.
Yeah, it is definitely.
Yeah, they actually do in his first appearance in 616. I remember it's a thing when Spider-Man fuses the arms together, and Doctor Octopus is forced to use him like to bludgeon him.
Yeah, I think that's in like the third issue. I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's an image that is burned into my brain. That's how I remembered it so quickly because those like early Spider-Man
uh,
comics are
and
just they live in my head rent free.
what I remember from that is Spider-Man goes like, "Man, I fused the arms together to neutralize his arms, but I just gave him another weapon."
Yeah, like that's what makes Doc Ock such a formidable foe. Even when you think you've got him, there's always something else with him. He's
Yeah,
got another trick up his sleeve.
yeah.
But yeah, Otto keeps calling Peter Parker. He keeps calling him Parker, but because of all the noise of battle, people can't hear. They just keep hearing the at the end.
Hmm.
There's a really funny moment where Tobey Maguire's like, I don't think it was nice. Like he
Which,
thinks he called him like fucker or something.
which is funny because now we know Tobey Maguire's kind of mean.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the stories about the underground poker ring and him telling someone to bark like a seal.
Yeah,
But
and it,
anyways,
yeah,
during the fight, then the
Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell, really runs off randomly screaming at the top of his lungs, like, don't kill me, I'm just an actor. And there's a really funny panel where it's just Doc Ock and Spider-Man stopping and staring in his direction because they're like,
Well,
what was that?
well, to be fair, this was a scene from the last issue, but Doctor Octopus's ex-wife is there on the set, and she was flirting with Bruce Campbell, like she was
That's
touching
true,
his
yeah.
arm. So he is a
Yeah.
target.
If I was flirting with Doc Ock's ex-wife, I would be very nervous. Or even if she was just flirting with me, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm next."
Oh yeah, and she was touching his chest and everything. So
Damn. Yeah, that was getting steamy,
yeah,
hot and
but,
heavy.
but I do like that Doctor Octopus doesn't seem to really care because he goes like, "I didn't know that this guy
Yeah.
is."
Yeah, he's like, I don't know you."
Yeah,
The fight is brutal. Doc Ock really he's dangerous in this one. I think that's what I like is that he does not let up. Peter's having a rough time. He gets his licks in, but I
yeah,
think this comic does a really good job showing how dangerous and formidable of an opponent Doc Ock is because
yeah.
he just lays the smackdown and beats the ever loving crud out of Spider-Man.
I think people forget like how dangerous Doctor Octopus is because like in the last because he's kind of crazy in Ultimate, but like his big thing I remember in 616 is that like he was introduced as like the only villain to have beaten Spider-Man because in their first fight he outpowers Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, he easily beats Peter in his first appearance way back when in the 60s
yeah,
and gets Peter to question just being a superhero at all because he hands him his first real defeat. It's a very good story. Now,
yeah.
just us geeking out about the original Stan Lee, Steve Ditko
Mhm.
stuff, but this holds true here. I feel like Doc Ock is still a very formidable. He's unhinged, sure, but he's also deadly with the arms. He knows how
Yeah.
to wield them. He's super smart and he's even saying during this fight, I've been thinking since the last time we met about all the ways that I was going to humiliate and defeat you. So he's
Yeah.
ready.
I think his first issue he wasn't very interesting. Spider-Man kind of easily beats him. The last two fights he just seems more and more deadly each time. And I
Yeah.
think it's because Brian Michael Bendis put his own spin in the arms. The arms are getting deadly. He's not
Hmm.
getting more lucid. I feel but he's getting more tactical again.
Yeah.
Some of his old genius is coming back. Yeah,
Yeah. He's getting more precise.
yeah.
But luckily, Leroy, the stunt guy, the Tobey Maguire's stunt double, gives Spidey an assist, which I thought was really fun.
He
Hits Doc Ock over the head.
Well, his back was turned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's a very fun fight.
yeah.
And then, meanwhile, MJ makes her way over to Aunt May's, and she's so excited because she's talking to Gwen, and she's like, I'm not grounded anymore. I'm free. My mom kicked my dad out of the house finally. It's all coming together.
And Gwen's like, "What do you want to do?" And she's like, "Let's watch TV,"
Yeah.
which I feel is like it's a very teenage thing and yeah,
Yeah.
millennial thing.
Yeah. If you're a teenager in the early 2000s and there's nothing else to do, you're just going to watch TV. Like, come
You,
on.
if Ultimate Universe like kept aging till now, Peter would be in his 40s now. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would be like if they did an Ultimate Spider-Man life story, I think, like how they
Yeah,
did with 616 Spider-Man. Like if Spider-Man did become Spider-Man in the 60s and aged in real time, what would that look like?
he'd be 80 or 70 now, right?
Yeah. Did you read Spider-Man Life Story?
No, I didn't even know about it until you told me about it
Oh my gosh,
recently.
it's so good. I mean,
Yeah,
everyone, like, I read it when it was coming out, and I think it's
yeah,
well deserved as one of the greatest Spider-Man comics ever. It's Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley as well,
yeah,
and it's very good. I would
yeah,
highly recommend it. It's a
yeah,
great remixing and of Spider-Man's history and his characters,
yeah.
just but as if it all happened in real time. Anyways, that aside, then MJ and Gwen turn on the TV, they see the news, and of course, understandably, MJ kind of freaks out and like is like, I gotta go, and runs off.
She calls Peter about like avoid the Lincoln Highway or
Yeah,
something.
and there's a whole panel where Gwen just you can see the illustration is so well done because you can just tell from her expression that she knows, like she
Yeah,
has realized, like, oh my gosh,
because she's a
like
smart cookie. She could put two and two together when other characters cannot.
yeah.
Yeah,
So you got to give her credit there. She's figured it out.
yeah,
Meanwhile, the fight continues, and Otto's still beating the crap out of Peter,
yeah,
knocking him unconscious in the Lincoln Tunnel. And yeah,
yeah.
there is an Arab cab driver who's trying to take a picture of the fight with his camera phone
And Peter just steals the camera.
because he's like, I'm done with people filming me and recording me today.
Poor dude. Just mugs this
Well,
dude.
he's actually going to get it worse later in the story. Just you
Yeah.
wait,
But look,
unfortunately.
Peter made his day. Peter, his day was probably going okay, and then Peter just ruins it. I mean, yes, I know it gets worse, but Peter's the one. It didn't have to be this bad.
The guy could have run instead of just like taking pictures,
You
but
see Spider-Man, you're gonna take pictures. I know who you are, Nabeel. You're gonna take pictures.
listen, don't call me out, another Arab guy who would probably take pictures of Spider-Man.
So, I mean, I'm gonna do it. I'll be honest. I see Spider-Man. I'm gonna take a picture.
You would also experiment with Doc Ock's arms, so I
Damn right
can't
I
really
will.
trust you as a reliable source.
Damn right I would.
Anyways, then issue 56 ends with Peter waking up and he's strapped to a chair on this private plane going over the ocean.
Yeah.
And so the next issue begins with Otto approaching Peter, and it's pretty brutal because he takes off his mask, and Peter's like, "What the hell are you doing? What's going on?" And Otto beats Peter with his arms and starts torturing him. There's this brutal sequence of him ripping out Peter's tooth.
Well, to be fair, he did it because Peter had a toothache because Otto accidentally gave him that one. So to be fair, removing the tooth is not the worst thing he did. If anything, it's
Wow. So he's basically a dentist, is what you're saying.
okay. So
He's just
I
doing
did
some routine dental work on
I
Peter.
did write this in the script, but Doctor Octopus, and I don't know, like this is like a trope I find annoying in comics. He does go like, "Trust me, I'm a doctor," and I'm like, okay. Earlier, they said you were a physicist and a biochemist. Later, he's gonna say I was a geneticist, and now he's saying he's a doctor. I don't know if it means is going crazy, or if it's just this weird trope of like we gotta make all the doctors do all the doctor stuff, all of them. No,
It
I'm
might
getting
just be that he's going crazy. I don't know. But yeah,
yeah,
I see your point. Once again, this is just like the Black Ops thing where you always got to get on your soapbox about this issue.
yeah.
I understand. I agree. They have to
It's
narrow it down to a specific
yes.
field because he can't be good at everything.
Yes, but since he is good at everything, like he
You
is
may as
actually
well have
probably a
him remove
dentist.
a tooth.
Yes, like he gave this guy a toothache because he knocked out a tooth, and then he just removes it.
Yeah. Fix the problem he created, yeah.
Yeah, and this other thing where he then uses the web shooters to shut Peter's mouth shut, and that's something I always respect about Doctor Octopus is that like whether it's Peter Parker or Spider-Man, he does to a certain degree respect other scientists, and he goes like, "This is pretty ingenious." He does respect Spider-Man or Peter Parker's scientific achievements to a certain degree.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah,
And he's like, this is pretty cool what you've done here. But then he uses it to web Peter's mouth shut,
yeah,
which rip.
yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, he's a villain,
yeah.
but
And this is where the plans go off the rails. The story for me kind of like loses its momentum here because
it gets
then
a
they're just
little.
it gets weird because then he's just in a plane with Peter and he's like, "Yeah, I'm using you as currency in case later I get into a tight spot."
Yeah,
But there's not really a clear plan as to what Otto's doing except getting on a private plane and fleeing the country.
it's also this weird thing where you think you know where the story's going, and then you kind of go like, it's a little unhinged. To be fair, he is crazy, but it's like kind of read a story about like a guy stealing a weapon to rob someone, and then like he beats you, you're kidnapped, and he goes like, I have this super gun, so I could take the fried chicken sandwich from Papa John's. I know that. No,
I don't understand what you're saying.
no, but that's the point.
Fried chicken sandwich from Papa John's.
Okay.
Josh, what?
Okay, I'm trying to think. I know I messed up the metaphor, but I'm trying to say is that like you think you know where the story's going, but then like Doctor Octopus, maybe it's crazy, or maybe it's just like they had to find a way to put the movie in. You don't know why he's doing anything in this comic other than the fact he's a little insane.
Maybe
Like,
he's dressed out to get the fried chicken sandwich from Papa John's.
okay, I messed that
I
up.
don't even think they have fried chicken sandwiches, I'll
Not
be
Papa.
honest.
No, you know what I mean. Like when we were at Trinity, where like people were killing each other for a fried chicken sandwich.
Yeah, because there was a Chick-fil-A.
Was it Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Papa
but that's
John's.
the thing. Is that like
say like Popeyes?
Popeyes? Okay, like you think you know where, and then you think you know where it's going. Like I feel the original arc of this was probably written for Doctor Octopus, like robs a scientific thing or creates a bomb and he has to escape. But like it goes a weird way where he goes like, did you do this incredibly elaborate plan just to ruin a movie?
Yeah, and I don't know. It's called Hollywood too. This is another gripe I have. But they don't even go to Hollywood. Maybe that's like a minor issue I have, because they just do the filming in New York. But I'm like, if you're taking this plane somewhere, why don't we just go to LA? I don't know.
To be fair, most things when they say it's filmed, most stuff is not actually filmed in Hollywood unless it's inside.
No, that's fair.
Most things are not filmed anywhere. Actually, they're filmed like in the least unexpected places. Marvel
Yeah.
Avengers wasn't filmed in New York.
Avengers, yeah, that was Atlanta, yeah.
Though we did find out before this that Spider-Man 2 was filmed in New York at LA.
Yeah.
So,
which is cool. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, Doc Ock then just starts monologuing to Peter. He's like, "Oh, I knew your father, and
we were geneticists together."
Yeah, and he wasn't the most revolutionary of scientists, but then he's like, you put on this mask and you play games, and you're just this little boy seeking attention from his dad deep down. And it's this whole thing about, I am embarrassed that you keep standing in my way because I have plans for bigger and better things, and people like you and my ex-wife and Norman Osborn, they're all in my way. And then he's like, let me explain how we got. So it gets very monologue-y until we actually flash back, thanks to him, about how they even got there, which was really that the SHIELD agents arrived on the scene when Doc Ock and Spidey were fighting in the Lincoln Tunnel, and they see a shadowy figure using Doc Ock's arms, and the SHIELD troops start shooting at him, and then it's revealed, unfortunately, that it was the same cab driver taking pictures of Spider-Man that was used as like decoy to lure them away. So RIP that guy.
And he did it because his arms again detached from him and carried this guy to the agents.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, shows how they're operating like separately, but part of like one brain. Also, the agent in charge of catching him, like who's running, is Jimmy Woo, who's now
that's right.
I think I'm not sure if I mentioned him a few times, or this is his first appearance. I don't remember. But
I think he's shown up a few times in Ultimate Spider-Man along with Agent Carter. Yeah, Sherman Carter.
Yeah, but his what's his face? Jim from The Office, and I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
No, it's Randall Park. Yeah,
yeah.
There's
Randall Park in the MCU now, which is
cool. Yeah. And meanwhile, during this whole scene in the Lincoln Tunnel, Avi Arad and the film crew are still shooting the footage. And later, then, after the decoy has served its purpose, the arms then catch up to Otto and Peter, who Otto's got Peter in a car and takes him to a private airfield where they steal this plane.
Mm-hmm. Right when it lands and there's the crew's coming out, he just sneaks back in and steals the pilot.
Yeah, exactly.
There's that. I know that's a common trope in like heist movies, but I do like this comic because they do make fun of it because they're trying to land the plane and the guy goes, we can't just land. Like after 9/11, you can't just land a plane anywhere.
Yeah, because we flash forward back to the present and Otto is checking on the pilot and he's like, hey, are we landing? And he's like, well, I got to clear the landing with ground control, and this is not a chartered flight. We have to actually get this right. Otherwise, we're not going to be allowed to land.
Yeah. I do like how this comic is just having fun at a certain point. It's just making fun of tropes while we're making fun of it.
Yeah, that's really fun.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the cabin is depressurized because the door is flung open, and the assumption now is like, oh my gosh, Peter's jumped out of the plane and he's
Mhm.
gone. Doc Ock's yelling out the window. He's like, Parker!
Parker,
Just like J. Jonah Jameson, really.
come
And
back
then,
here, Shocker!
you can't escape me!
I'll chase you
Oh,
to the ends of the earth.
Shocker!
I mean, Parker.
Anyways, that tangent aside from the classic episode of Spider-Man, the animated series,
Yeah,
then we cut to the end of issue 57, which is Gwen deciding to just break into Peter's chest that he has in the basement.
with a screwdriver.
That's right. And she finds his Spider-Man suit in there. And then it ends with her whispering, like, you killed my father.
Now you must die.
I mean, not that part. Mainly just the you killed my father, but Josh just added that part on.
It's from the movie with Robin Wright.
You're talking about the Princess Bride?
Yes, Princess.
You killed my father, prepare to die.
Yeah, and
Yes.
to be fair, she. Oh, we'll get over it. Back to 58. Honest, he actually. I feel this is his most. He's very serial killery in this arc, and he's really serial killery to the pilot. The pilot's like, I just want to
Mhm.
live, and he goes like, it's like, no, we gotta find Spider-Man. He escaped. And the pilot's like, what can I do about it? And he goes like, are you gonna kill me? And Otto goes like, no, but like the night's still young, so maybe.
Yeah, he's like, you've served your purpose, you've done well, but I still might need you. And then it's revealed that Spider-Man did not, in fact, leave the plane because then
Yeah.
he ambushes Doc Ock and kicks him from behind when the cabin
Yeah.
doors open and out onto the runway.
Hmm.
And so Peter is pissed too. A lot of the times, comic book fans will say, and Spider-Man fans especially, don't mess with Spider-Man when he's angry because when
Yeah.
he gets angry, like he's not messing around. And he's like pissed, especially with Doc Ock, like
Yeah.
kidnapping him and torturing him and beating him. He
Yeah.
just starts beating the crap out of Octavius.
It's not a fair fight, and also like that's all. Like Octavius is such a big threat, but once you get past the arms, which he is, because they're in such a tight space, he's just a regular dude mostly, and that's when you could just
Yeah,
get give him a 1-2, as they say.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doc Ock is really more of a danger when he's at a distance, which happens often because his arms are so long and they're so mobile and there's so many of them. It's easy to keep people at a distance and keep them on their toes.
And they're so powerful.
And yeah, they're very
They
powerful.
look fragile, but they grab tanks and rip them apart. So
Exactly. They're very strong and that makes them dangerous, but as soon as Spider-Man closes in on Doc Ock, it's game over
yeah,
because then he's just a regular guy. And so there's this big fight, and during that part, Spider Man's tossed aside, and then he sees the sign in Portuguese, and he's like, oh, I'm so grounded, it's not even funny because he's out of the country now.
he thinks it's Spanish though.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
Because after Spider Man officially beats Doc Ock, he's confronted by these authorities who do not speak English and start yelling at him and pointing guns at him. And he's like, Speako Englisho.
I feel that's a very American thing.
It is a very American response, yeah.
There's this lady cop who shows up and goes like, "It's like, are you Spider-Man?" And he goes like, "Yeah." It's like, "Is this Spanish Harlem?" She goes, "No, it's Brazil."
Yeah, he's landed in Brazil.
Doctor Octopus steals this plane when like it just landed, and he kidnaps the pilot. The pilot must be tired, and like that plane does not look like it has a lot of fuel, and it went from wherever it went to New York and then to Brazil, so
Yeah,
not a
like
short flight.
not by any means, no. And so then the cop says to Spider-Man that they need to be brought in for questioning after Spider-Man and the pilot explain what happens. Then the cop's also like, you have to remove your mask, say who you are, and we need to question you. And he's like, nope.
Yep.
And so he just bounces away and ends up hitching a ride in the cargo of a commercial flight
Yeah.
just as it's taking off. He manages to escape in the nick of time.
And that's another heist movie trope, and it makes fun of that because then Spider-Man gets really cold in it.
Yeah, he's freezing cold in this cargo and he's rifling through luggage for some warm clothing. And of course, he feels really bad about it. And he's like, I wouldn't do this under normal circumstances. And then he opens a suitcase and finds like Hello Kitty gear.
And so a sweat. And to be fair, he finds like scarves and sweater and a beanie too.
Yeah. And so he arrives in America, but it's in the Atlanta airport.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got to get to JFK or maybe even Newark. And he sees a suitcase that's marked for Newark. So he just goes inside this suitcase.
There's a scene where like the airport guys are like carrying him. It's like, man, this is way too heavy.
Yeah, like talk about oversized luggage,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. He arrives in Newark,
Mhm.
and right when Aunt May is in the airport as well, and he has to like run home.
Yeah, well, then there's this whole fun sequence that I really love from the story arc that I always remember is that he gets into Newark and he just yeets out of the cargo hold and he just starts running through the airport as the cops chase him. And he's in this strange hodgepodge of different items of clothing, these different fashion styles clashing, and he's got a Santa hat on and everything. It's so funny. And yeah,
And
it is this Ferris Bueller's Day Off kind of sequence of Aunt May just got to the airport, just as he's in the airport, and now he's racing home, and the panels cut between him catching rides on cabs and trucks while Aunt May is stuck in traffic in the cab taking her home.
she even sees him at one point. But I feel this is a very classic Spider-Man thing where like, he gets from home and he has to change out of his costume or get flowers for Aunt May or MJ or eggs or something before
Yeah.
they expire, and he has to do this in costume while like before they get home. Like it's a very Spider-Man thing that happens.
No, definitely. It is a
Yeah.
classic Spider Man problem. Like, he's just an ordinary kid, like Ferris Bueller, some might say, who has to
Yeah.
get home before his mom does, or his aunt, who's basically his mom. And he has to overcome all these obstacles to get there, forgetting also that he just made an international round trip in the past, like, day or two to Brazil and back.
Yeah. Well, he has super strength, so it's not as rough for him as it would be for anyone else.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a strong constitution.
Super spider endurance that could survive a death ray, you know?
You got that right.
Damn right.
Then Peter arrives just in time. He gets to the basement, and then Gwen is there, though. And issue 58 ends on a cliffhanger because then Gwen's got a gun and is pointed at Peter with his mask off, and she's like, "You killed my father."
Prepare to die.
That's the implication, but she doesn't explicitly say that.
Yeah.
The next issue opens with Gwen pointing her dad's gun at Peter.
Because Peter asks, where'd you get the gun? Aunt May doesn't
Yeah.
own a gun. Well, I mean, actually, we find out she does, but.
But he doesn't know that at this point. But yeah, then Gwen's like, she keeps screaming about a man in a Spider-Man outfit, and he's like, "I did not kill your father. It wasn't me."
I just remembered the police don't own their own guns. It's owned by the city or the government. So how did she
So
get
her
the
dad
gun?
must have just owned a gun on his own
But I
outside of the
think
police force.
symbolically it must be his gun, no?
Maybe, yeah. I don't know if like the police force would just be allowed to like leave it with her.
Probably not. She either stole it or the writers didn't think of it, and I like to think
I
she
bet
stole it.
Gwen stole it. Yeah, yeah. Knowing this version of Gwen, she stole it.
It's like, where'd you keep that? My back pocket brought it to school.
Yeah, like come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, then Aunt May's arrival kind of saves Peter because she arrives upstairs and she's like, "Hello, I'm home." And that distracts Gwen long enough for Peter to run and snatch the gun and grab her. He's able to hold on to her and explain very rationally
Yeah.
how it couldn't have been him who killed her father because he was with her as Peter when her father was killed in Atlantic City when they were in New York.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm sorry that I didn't tell you my secret, but I didn't want anyone to know, like you or Aunt May's, so that way you guys would worry about me. And
Yeah.
but please don't say anything. Aunt May couldn't handle this."
Which is a classic line he like every Peter Parker says.
Every time.
And Gwen's steaming, she's scared. And to be fair, this guy who she thinks killed her dad with super strength just grabbed her and shoved his mouth with a dirty gloved costume into her mouth to shut her up.
Dirty
Yeah.
gloved costume.
It is
Oh my
dirty.
gosh.
He just flew from Brazil. It's probably sweaty.
Yeah, at this point, it's not fresh. No.
Yeah.
It
And
is
she's
dirty.
scared. She makes sense. We find that it's not just to run off, but she runs off the instant he lets go of her.
Yeah, exactly. And Peter would chase after her, but of course, he has to get dressed as Peter and talk to Aunt May because she's been the whole time she's been like, "Anyone home? Hello?" So he catches up to her, and Aunt May, of course, freaks out when she sees his face because it's swollen after Doc Ock beat him and ripped out his tooth.
And she goes like, "It's infected. You have to go to the dentist."
Classic, yeah, classic mom. taking
Yeah.
care of her boy and being like, "Why didn't you call me?" And he's like, "You didn't need to worry about it. You were on your way back anyways." He's like, "I'll go to school." And she's like, "No, you're going to the dentist."
Yeah. And he tells her, "I've been playing video games all day," which is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If only.
Yeah.
But later, MJ walks into Peter's room while he's napping. She wakes him up and startles him, which startles her.
Yeah.
But they get this nice moment where they get to catch up, and she's like, I was so worried about you, and this has been on TV all day." But he explains everything that happened. Then the news also covers it too when they feature the part where Peter runs through Newark in women's clothing, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who gets interviewed on TV says he was cross-dressing, which, yikes, not a term we would use today. They're making fun of that too and making light of it. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't like
MJ
that.
goes like, "You have something to tell me, Peter, that
Yeah,
you're
I'm
into?"
like, definitely not something that's aged the best. That is a very
Yeah.
2000s joke.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, Peter's like, yeah, and Gwen is pissed off because she knows I'm Spider-Man, and MJ's
Yeah.
like, "You told her?" And he's like, "No, I
No, just put
didn't."
two and two together.
And MJ's like, "Oh, that might have been my bad.
Oh,
That's kind of on me." So that's rough. But as they're talking about it, then Gwen does show up in the room and she's like, "Hey, I know it wasn't you." Because she's like, "Yeah, I went to the backyard for like an hour and then I went to the movies and then she went to the library to read up about Spider-Man and about her
yeah.
dad and realized that it wasn't Peter." And admits that she's still reeling from like her mom being gone and her dad
Yeah.
dying and feeling so isolated and angry and alone. But it's this really nice moment where Gwen's like, "I would never betray you or your friendship. Like, I'll do whatever it takes to protect you."
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really nice moment between the three of them too, because they all just lay back on Peter's bed and they're making chit chat and
It's
just quipping and bantering with each other about, "Man, I don't know how you do it, Peter." And he's like, "I need a psychiatrist." And MJ's like, "Oh, not me. I don't need therapy at all." And they're all just joking and hanging out like a fun group of friends.
that's something I really liked about Ultimate Spider, especially towards the end, is that you just get this really nice dynamic between the characters, like
Yeah.
MJ, Gwen. I don't like because I don't think they interact. They only interact at all technically in 616. But we later get other characters like Kong, Kitty Pryde becomes a Spider-Man character for like the last 100 issues. You get Human Torch and Iceman later. Like they
Yeah.
just have an interesting teenage dynamic that people
Yeah,
like.
of
Yeah,
course. Yeah. You have Flash too and Liz and
yeah,
everyone. Yeah. It's a good cast that they have in this cast of teenagers.
yeah. While the relaxed Nick Fury sees Otto's like, "I want to talk to you personally because you killed a lot of people, especially a lot of Shield agents. So I'm finally gonna burn and destroy the arms, and you're gonna watch."
I'm like, okay, this is a good idea. This is necessary. They should have destroyed them in the first place. Keeping them was a mistake. Making Otto watch is so cruel because Otto's just screaming as Nick Fury just throws these arms, lowers them into this vat of molten liquid
Like the
as they
Terminator 2
burn.
movie.
Yeah, it's literally the end of Terminator 2, but for these arms, and Otto's screaming, and he's like, "No!" And he's like, "Not them, it was me, it wasn't them, don't do this." It's brutal.
Yeah,
It's cruel, but also like, all right, yeah, you should have done this in the first place, Fury, but wow. Wow,
yeah.
man. He's got a bit of a sadistic streak.
Well, also he said like Otto is to because Otto killed a bunch of people.
That's fair,
Yeah.
yeah.
That being said, I'm like Otto is obviously mentally ill. That's morally it's not the right decision.
No, but he does it.
Otto's pushed away, but Fury still looks at the love and arms are still flailing out of it. And he goes like I think this will be like they'll be gone in a few hours, but like keep an eye on it because these aren't
Yeah,
melting all the way.
which is smart because so often in this type of media, you will see things like this happen and people just walk away presuming that someone or something is dead or destroyed. And then later they find out, oh, this person survived that thing because we didn't double check. So I'm like, yeah, that's pretty smart. Just have them keep
Yeah,
an eye on it for a while after
yeah,
they seemingly destroyed these arms. And then we cut to 4 months later when the Spider-Man movie has released, and it's, of course, it is very realistic because they're like, this is the biggest box office opening in history. And I'm like, yeah, you've seen so many Marvel movies in real life like that. And
yeah.
I think a lot of it benefited because it was a mixture of real footage of Spider-Man and Doc Ock and also actors too. So I would imagine it was this very bizarre film that was a hodgepodge of this fictional narrative combined with actual reality footage, which is what they say. So it's kind of crazy. And then at school, Kong has become a big star because he had one line in the movie and all the girls are fawning over him and everyone is asking him what it's like. And he was like, oh, it was amazing. Like, Tobey, what a chill guy. Wow, like what an experience.
Which is funny because Tobey is not a chill guy in real life.
Yeah. But Kong is honestly very, I would say, kind and humble about the whole thing. He also yells over to Peter and MJ and he's like, hey guys, did you go see the movie? And Peter's like, no, I hear it's good. And he's like, well, I totally hope you go see it. And I was like, he's a sweet guy. Like,
He's not a nice guy though. Like it's him becoming nice.
he's becoming nicer, yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like if this was someone like Flash, he would be so braggadocious about it, and he'd be rubbing in people's faces in it, and because like
Oh,
everyone is fawning over Kong, and
oh,
he's taking it and accepting it. But I feel like
he's
he's being a little more humble about it.
he's braggadocious, but in a nice way. Like he goes like, "I was great in this movie, but I really appreciate if you guys watch it."
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, totally.
And like for spoilers, Kong in the later parts of the series does become maybe not a nice guy, but he does go like, "Hey, don't make fun of people for being mutants. That's messed
Yeah,
up." Yeah, and he is like a friend to Peter.
yeah, and he's got a softer and a nicer side that we see. He's not just the big bully kind of
Oh,
minion for Flash,
yeah.
which he's depicted as earlier in the series.
And to be fair, I think it's like his maturing, and maybe in a weird way, fame is what he needed.
Yeah, maybe. Who
Yeah,
knows? Just to
yeah,
strike out on his own a little, get out of Flash's shadow.
yeah,
But yeah, that's the ending of the story. And overall, I thought it was very fun. I did find myself flashing back a lot to Amazing Spider-Man 14, like the first appearance of the Green Goblin, which is one of the wackiest Spider-Man plot
yeah,
lines ever because the Green Goblin approaches Spider-Man and tricks him into thinking that he's actually starring in a movie, but it's actually a plot for the Green Goblin and the Enforcers to ambush him and kill him. But it's so wild that that's the first appearance of the Green Goblin ever. Is him tricking Spider-Man, Spider-Man buying into the idea that he, as Spider-Man, was going to star in this movie and make a lot of money.
yeah.
But it was this villainous plot. I don't know why, but especially in the first couple issues, I was like, dang, it's a shame this Peter can't at least star in a fake movie or something. Like they weren't even going to give him that illusion.
No, I mean, like it's what was it like? Not gonna cast your like what it's based on with the real person. Like there's
Yeah,
that.
they wouldn't cast Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network.
No, that'd be horrible. Mark Zuckerberg is like too awkward and evil.
Yeah. Jesse Eisenberg killed it though.
Which is funny because Jesse Eisenberg is nothing like Mark Zuckerberg. Actually,
No, yeah, he
yeah,
seems very sweet.
yeah. Even his character actually is like just the dickish version of the actor more than actual Mark Zuckerberg, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I believe that.
But there was also that movie where it's about the video gamer who becomes a race car driver. I haven't seen it, but I've seen all the trailers for it. But like they cast the character it's based on as one of the drivers in the background.
Oh, that's interesting. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. He was also the stunt double for the main actor. Actually,
That's awesome. Oh my
that's actually.
gosh.
And they said, yeah, it's the first movie where like the guy we're making the movie about is a stunt double for the main character who's based
That's a
on
lot of
him.
fun.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you want to cast Spider-Man to be Spider-Man.
I mean, maybe for the stunts.
They did cast Spider-Man for the stunts. Remember?
When?
In this comic,
I mean,
they just
that
used
was
footage
without
of him.
they just used footage of him without his consent. They didn't actually pay him as a stuntman or anything.
You know, in the Nixon movie, Nixon didn't get any scenes for the times they used his real interviews and footage on that movie.
Well, that was about Watergate and all the actual nasty stuff that he did behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Of course, he wouldn't get any money for that.
I mean, yeah, this is about Spider-Man being a mass vigilante. This movie.
Yeah, but he's fighting Doc Ock. I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way, what'd you think of these issues, Josh, overall?
Like them. Like, look, there's nothing too special other than the Gwen finding out thing, which I think was the point. I think
Yeah.
I didn't really come to this realization, if this is even true, that I think this comic was written differently and they changed it to promote the movie.
Oh, I can see
That's my
that, maybe.
theory. That's my theory because I feel like there's too many stuff that's too weird. Like the plane thing makes no sense, and I think they planned for something else and they changed it. That
Yeah.
being, because I feel Doctor Octopus was not going that route. He was going more lucid rather than more crazy, which is how it's like in this arc. But it's not bad. Like it's look, I don't think every comic issue has to be. And I think Marvel should take note of this because they do it too often these days. Is not every arc needs to lead to this big revelation and big event.
That's true. They don't
Yeah,
all need to be massive game changers. I think often you're right. Marvel and DC will promote things as like, nothing will ever be the same. This
yeah,
is it. This is the big one. You don't miss it. Something is going to change the universe forever. It doesn't
yeah,
always need to be that.
yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. To me, it felt like this was intended mainly just to be a fun way to tie into the hype around Spider Man 2 and to do a fun little meta narrative about the movie.
Yeah.
But it does kind of lose momentum after a bit because then you're like, all right, what's the plan here? They
Well,
fight on the film set, and then what? They get on a plane to Brazil?
it's important that it did the Gwen storyline, which I think was the point of the storyline.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest, most impactful part of it, and I thought that was done really well. I also thought back to with Gwen's story, it kind of reminded me of Harry in the Sam Raimi trilogy, with Harry Osborn in that version where he is dead set on the idea that Spider-Man killed his father throughout the second movie, and then at the end of the second movie, he finds out Peter's Spider-Man, and then he becomes the next villain for Spider-Man 3 because he's like, you killed my father, no matter how many times Peter says he didn't. But
Yeah.
they definitely handle this a lot better. And what's really funny too is they're teenagers and they have a more rational conversation and come to a better understanding of the truth way better than Harry and Peter in the movies who are full grown adults.
Well, I think that's because the nature between Harry and Peter in the movies is different from Ultimate Gwen and Ultimate Peter. First of all, I
Yeah.
still think there's strong tension of a certain kind between the two.
Oh, give me a break.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm just gonna say it. You're probably gonna edit this out. That if
We
it was,
just talked about how they had a sibling like a relationship earlier in the episode.
oh well, yeah, like it could be interpreted either way. But if it was Gwen and
What is this,
MJ,
Game of Thrones?
no,
What are we going
but
for here,
no.
Josh?
First of all, they get together anyway later on. But if Ultimate
It's gross
MJ
and it's
and
wrong.
Gwen have been switched, Gwen wouldn't reveal to Ultimate MJ accidentally that Peter was Spider-Man. But I also think the relationship between Peter and Gwen is different because I feel Gwen. Big thing about Harry is that like he's not very bright in the movies. But for
Yeah.
Gwen, she's a lot smarter. She's a lot more dynamic. She actually knows. Like, I think she's a little like emotionally unstable, but also like she is like very mature as opposed to Harry. She's very logical. She's very smart and mature, is what I'm trying to say, as opposed to Harry.
Well,
That
Harry's also pretty unstable in those movies,
yeah,
for
but
sure.
Gwen's also smart as opposed to Harry.
Yeah. But I feel like a big glaring flaw in that trilogy, the Sam Raimi trilogy, is there's rarely a point where Peter sits down and explains to Harry the situation and what happened.
Because Harry wouldn't let
And
him. To be fair.
yeah, to be fair, yeah, Harry wouldn't give him the opportunity, but then we get at the very near the end of Spider-Man 3 their butler going to Harry and telling him exactly what happened, and that motivates Harry to go on his redemption arc to save Peter from Venom and Sandman. And I'm like, dude, we could have had this conversation a whole movie ago. What do you mean? You just tell him the truth like we should have done in the first place,
Well,
and all of a
that's
sudden that changes everything?
I've heard been told that's always been the weakness of Spider-Man 3. I liked it as a kid. I still really like it. It's also not a bad movie.
I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it is very flawed, though. It
It's
does have some glaring issues.
it's just not as good as the first two, and there are big plot holes, and that's one of them. Yeah.
Plus, there's the whole thing about Sam Raimi didn't want Venom in the movie, but
Oh.
people like Avi Arad pushed for Venom in that movie when
Yeah.
he should not have been there
Too much.
because Sam Raimi did not care about Venom at all and didn't want him in there.
Yeah. Which is sad because Topher, that's his name. Topher is a good Venom.
Topher Grace?
Yeah, I like Topher
I
Grace.
did not like his Venom. I
Did you know
love
they?
Topher Grace, but his Venom was that was a poor miscasting on their part.
I used to have the book for Spider-Man 3 where they talked about it. Did you know they actually tortured him? You know the scream where his, like the scene where he's screaming because the Venom's getting into him.
Yeah.
They actually tortured him because they used fish hooks in that scene.
Yeah,
He
I
got
remember
cut.
the interview with Topher Grace and he was like, not a lot of acting done that day.
So, well, I really like Topher Grace as Eddie Brock. Like I feel he was very much what Peter Parker likes to think of himself as. I feel.
Well, it's a pretty interesting idea of making him basically Peter Parker if he wasn't a good moral guy. But I feel like Venom was very rushed in the
Oh yeah,
movie.
definitely rushed.
So you don't really give him a lot of room to develop, especially when there's two other villains in the movie.
Yeah. I also forgot, though I just looked her up. Bryce Dallas Howard is Gwen Stacy in this movie.
Yeah, in
In that
Spider-Man
movie.
3, yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is funny because she's usually a redhead, but she's blonde because she's Gwen Stacy in that movie.
And Kristen Dunst is a redhead in the movie, but she's a blonde.
Yeah, exactly. It's always that's super funny.
Yeah. You know the big thing is that there's like all these fictional redheads, and they all like, oh, but we have to use hair dye and like a wig because there's not enough like real redheads. And I'm like, well, you had a real redhead, and then you like cast her as a blonde.
Yeah, but I feel like we've veered off topic enough. Do you have
Yeah.
any final thoughts, Josh?
Fun arc, not very consequential, except the Gwen part. Because I
Right.
always like it when Gwen has not been the main character in the Spider arcs for a while now.
Yeah, it's great giving Gwen this spotlight and giving her this great moment where she realizes Peter's identity and
Yeah,
they come to terms with it and she finally has some resolution
yeah.
to a lot of the grief and pain she's been carrying around.
Even at that part, I feel this was a pretty good comic exploring Peter and Gwen's relationship, the way they
Hmm.
act with each other, the money, how they talk, all three of them sitting in bed, pulling out
Yeah.
that gun. MJ would never pull a gun on Peter, you know.
No, I mean, unless she thought he was actually a threat, which she wouldn't because she knows him.
I mean, different versions of Peter have actually like killed and eaten MJ before.
Yeah, well, I'm sure she would have if she could have.
Yeah. Some would say that's what makes Gwen Peter's best partner is because she pulled a gun on him.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
You never read Killing Eve or watched Killing Eve?
No, I didn't.
It's such a good show, and there's a scene
I
where
don't know
like
what this has to do with that.
Sandra Oh stabs her lover, played by Jodie Comer, and that's like the most romantic scene in the show slash book.
Josh, don't take this the wrong way. I think I understand why you're single. I I don't get that idea of romance, dude.
It's supposed to be a metaphor for penetration, man.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
I think I think we can just end it there. I I agree with you, Josh. I think the best parts of this story were the more personal aspects with Gwen. I think like any good Spider-Man story, the best parts have to do with Peter Parker and with his
Yeah.
world and his cast. So I
Yeah.
think that was super impactful in that way. And
Yeah.
I love that resolution that he comes to with Gwen. I also love the fun moments of, oh, Aunt May's out of town and oh, I just got back from this crazy globe-trotting adventure and I have to get home before Aunt May does. And moments like those are fun, and Kong getting the spotlight a little bit. And the fight with
It's
Doc Ock is fun and everything, and I love like the references to Hollywood and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. The plot gets lost a little bit when they just randomly go to Brazil because Doc Ock has no real plan, but
I mean, that's why I think they probably changed the writing of this. I would really like to. Let's email Brian Michael Bendis about
let's do
this.
it.
Let's do it.
I've been meaning to do that for months now.
Yeah. Please listen to us, Brian Michael Bendis. We're sorry for all the times we made fun of you. It was Nabeel's idea. He wrote most of the scripts.
Yeah, you know me. I
Yeah.
love making fun of comic book writers.
Yeah. Nerds.
And Josh is begging for me to stop and show some respect, and I'm like, no, I have no respect for comic book writers. Well, speaking of emails, Josh, where can our listeners email us if you want to get in touch and let us know what you think of the show and the comics and us and whatever else you want?
Ultimate Comics Podcast at gmail.com. That's podcast singular, comics plural. So Ultimate Comics Podcast at gmail.com.
That is right. You can email us about pretty much anything. Honestly, we'd just be glad to get email from people.
Yeah.
But you can also follow us on Instagram. Thank you to all our followers. It's just at Ultimate Comics Podcast. We have a lot of fun clips that we post and images from the comics we read, and we share a bunch of fun stuff. And so please like and comment and talk to us and keep engaging with our polls and stories and all that fun stuff. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Next time, we are back on the Ultimate X-Men train, which we haven't really been on in a while, I feel like, since
Yeah.
that arc with Wolverine teaming up with Spider-Man and Daredevil, I'm pretty
Mm-hmm.
sure. We'll be reading Ultimate X-Men 40 through 45. It's issues
Yeah.
40 through 45, so very excited to get back on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, until next time, take care, everyone, and make mine Ultimate Marvel. Bye-bye.